Amanda Collins had always been the quiet force behind the scenes at Crestline Tech, a rapidly expanding software company based in Austin, Texas. At 42 years old, Amanda was the type of project manager who never sought the spotlight or accolades. She was the steady hand in the chaos, the person who showed up at 2 a.m. when alarms rang and stayed late into the night, sacrificing holidays and personal time. While others clocked out and made plans, Amanda was silently carrying the weight of critical projects on her shoulders. Fueled by relentless determination and a deep sense of responsibility, Crestline was a company built on speed and agility. Where deadlines were tight and pressure was constant, the atmosphere was electric, a mixture of innovation, urgency, and high expectations. In that environment, Amanda's work ethic was unmatched. She managed crises with calm precision, led emergency calls, patched last-minute bugs, and ensured nothing fell through the cracks. Yet, despite her countless sacrifices and contributions, Amanda rarely received recognition. Instead, the spotlight often fell on louder voices and those who played politics better. One crisp autumn morning, the tension in the company reached its peak during a packed all-hands meeting. Amanda sat quietly among her colleagues on the third floor, heart pounding beneath a composed exterior. The CEO, Nathan Reed, stood confidently at the front of the room, addressing the entire company. Developers, analysts, and team leads squeezed shoulder to shoulder. With a broad smile, he applauded Michael, a colleague who had largely been absent during the most critical moments, crediting him as the architect of a recent major project turnaround. Amanda stared straight ahead, the sound of applause washing over her like a cold wave. She knew deep down this wasn't a simple oversight. It was a deliberate erasure of her hard work, a silent execution of the very person who had bled in the shadows so that the project could survive. The moment planted a seed of fierce resolve within her, a determination to no longer be invisible. Amanda Collins never imagined that her quiet dedication would go unnoticed, let alone be deliberately erased. But that morning in the crowded conference room at Crestline Tech marked the turning point that changed everything. For years, Amanda had been the unsung hero. She wasn't the loudest voice in meetings, nor did she chase office politics. Instead, she showed up, day after day, often long after everyone else had left. When the Virexa project, Crestline's largest and most critical client contract worth $8.3 million, began to unravel, she was the only one who stepped up. The project was already sinking when Amanda found herself thrust into the chaos. Half of the original team had quit or been reassigned, while the others were overwhelmed and paralyzed by the technical complexity and client pressure. Deadlines were slipping, bugs piled up, and the client's patience was wearing thin. Amanda didn't wait to be asked. She volunteered, took control, and dove headfirst into the fire. Nights blurred into mornings. Amanda's apartment became a distant memory as she lived in the office. Sometimes sleeping on a worn-out couch. Sometimes just grabbing a few hours of rest between crisis calls. She juggled coding, debugging, and client meetings while simultaneously managing the team's morale, a feat that demanded every ounce of strength she had. Emails were sent at 3:47 a.m. with updates and solutions. She patched critical errors that threatened compliance and rebuilt portions of the backend that had been neglected. Her sacrifices were invisible to most, but not to those who worked alongside her. A junior developer confided that he stayed solely because Amanda made the chaos manageable. The UI lead said Amanda's calm during client calls was the only thing preventing panic. But still, Amanda kept her head down. She never complained. She didn't demand credit. She believed that if she kept pushing, if she kept delivering, the company would notice. They would see her. They would reward her. That belief kept her moving long after exhaustion should have made her stop. But when the CEO, Nathan Reed, stood before the company and praised Michael, a colleague who had spent half the quarter overseas and had barely responded to the emergency calls, Amanda felt something break inside. She stayed seated, her face composed, but her heart shattered in silence. The applause wasn't for her. It was for someone who hadn't earned it. It was a silent declaration. Amanda was invisible. Her months of relentless labor, the personal sacrifices, the sleepless nights, none of it mattered. In the days that followed, the company's silence around Amanda's contributions became deafening. Project timelines and reports were rewritten, with Michael's name carefully inserted in every critical update. Amanda's name vanished as if she had never existed. The team drive, presentation decks, and client logs bore no trace of her involvement. It wasn't neglect, it was deliberate erasure. Burnout wasn't sudden for Amanda, it was a slow, grinding erosion of her spirit. The fatigue that had once been physical had now seeped deep into her soul. Her migraines worsened, coffee became her lifeline, and her voice grew quieter. Yet she stayed, because no one else would. And then came the moment when Amanda realized that her silence was no longer serving her. She found herself staring at a draft email she'd written 2 nights before. Addressed to Nathan Reed, it was a simple request, a salary adjustment to reflect her expanded responsibilities and leadership during the Virexa crisis. But fear had kept her from sending it. Now, watching Michael bask in applause she had earned, the dam broke. Amanda spent 3 agonizing hours rewriting that email, softening phrases, removing any hint of entitlement, rehearsing professionalism even in frustration. She finally sent it late that evening, hoping for acknowledgement, a meeting, or even constructive feedback. The response arrived less than 2 hours later, cold, curt, and dismissive. Given budget constraints and company priorities, we are unable to accommodate your request at this time. No mention of her leadership. No thanks. No offer to discuss. The rejection was not a shock, but the crushing silence that followed was deafening. Amanda felt the ground shift beneath her feet. The company she had saved had no place for her. Her breaking point came quietly, in a locked bathroom stall where she finally let the tears fall, not in anger, but in deep sorrow for the belief she had lost. But Amanda was not defeated. She began quietly gathering every piece of evidence she could find to document her work: emails, status reports, Slack conversations, client feedback, commit logs. She built a digital archive that told the truth the company was trying to erase. She did not seek revenge. She sought protection, proof, a way to ensure that when the story came out, it would be hers to tell. The shift began subtly. A senior client executive from Virexa, Elena Varley, noticed Amanda's absence in the official project summaries and publicly questioned the CEO during a virtual strategy meeting. The question hung in the air like a challenge: why wasn't Amanda credited? Nathan Reed's usual confidence cracked for the first time. He hesitated, faltered, and his fear was palpable. The client's team started demanding Amanda's involvement in every critical meeting, bypassing the company's chain of command. Inside Crestline, whispers spread. The company could no longer ignore the truth. Amanda had become the linchpin the project couldn't survive without. Then came the call from Nathan himself, an invitation to reset and move forward. But Amanda was done trying to save a company that didn't value her. She declined. In the weeks that followed, Crestline's fortunes unraveled. The major client suspended their contract, citing personnel misalignment and loss of trust. The CEO scrambled to contain the fallout, but the damage was done. 2 mid-level managers were publicly fired as scapegoats. But the silence from the board was louder than any speech. Amanda's quiet archive became the key to exposing the truth, the silent war fought with data, documentation, and unyielding resolve. She sent her resignation with the full record attached, every decision log, bug fix, and client message, to both the company and the client. Then, for the first time in months, Amanda breathed freely. Her story spread beyond Crestline, leading to an unexpected offer from Virexa to join them as a strategic project consultant. With full autonomy and double her previous salary, Amanda's journey was a testament not just to endurance, but to the power of quiet persistence, of demanding recognition through undeniable proof, and knowing when to walk away. Amanda thought the hardest part was over once she sent her resignation and the detailed archive to both Crestline Tech and Virexa Systems. She imagined a quiet exit, a clean break from the company that had tried to erase her. But life had other plans. What happened next was an unexpected twist that neither she nor anyone around her saw coming, a moment when silence exploded into a roar. The day after her resignation, Amanda arrived at her small apartment just as the sun began to set. The orange-pink hues outside contrasted sharply with the weight she still carried. She sat down with a cup of tea, trying to center herself, to prepare for the unknown future. Her phone buzzed, an email notification from Verexa. Subject: Invitation to Strategy Roundtable, Verexa Systems. Curious, she opened it. It was from Elena Varley, Verexa's senior strategy officer, the same person who had publicly questioned Crestline's CEO about Amanda's exclusion from the leadership summary. The message was simple but firm. They wanted Amanda to join a critical strategy roundtable discussing the future of their partnership with Crestline. The meeting was set for Thursday morning. The invite list included all senior Verexa leaders and just 2 people from Crestline, the CEO, Nathan Reed, and Amanda. Amanda stared at the screen, heart pounding. This was unprecedented. Normally, Crestline controlled the narrative. Normally, Nathan Reed would shield his team. But here she was, invited to a meeting with the client's most powerful leaders, right alongside the CEO. This was no accident. It was a challenge, a test, and maybe a final reckoning. The morning of the meeting arrived. Amanda entered the sleek, glass-walled conference room, nerves tingling but spine straight. She sat quietly at the edge, while Verexa's team filtered in, crisp suits, calm faces, calculating eyes. Nathan looked composed but tense. The air was thick with unspoken tension. After the usual formalities, Elena Varley spoke directly to the group. Before we begin, I have a question for Nathan. Why was Amanda Collins excluded from your original leadership summary for the Verexa project? The room fell silent. Nathan blinked, swallowed hard. We categorized contributions collectively. The summary focused on executive oversight. Elena's gaze didn't waver. That's odd. Amanda was the primary point of contact for 3 critical weeks. She led every executive call, rebuilt your backend, caught compliance errors others missed. The client team's feedback repeatedly credits her leadership. Yet her name was absent. The words hit the room like stones skipping over water. Quiet. Precise. Impossible to ignore. Nathan shifted uncomfortably. For the first time, his usual CEO armor faltered, revealing fear, not anger, not confidence, but raw vulnerability. His eyes met Amanda's, and she saw a silent message: don't speak. Don't move. But Amanda had already spoken, through the archive, the evidence she had painstakingly compiled. Elena pressed on. We were surprised by this omission, especially as Michael's presence was noted despite his limited involvement. Our team found Amanda's leadership indispensable. The client's message was clear. Amanda's contributions were not only acknowledged but essential. The meeting pivoted to business. But the power dynamics had shifted irrevocably. Nathan was no longer the undisputed leader. The board had been watching. And this public questioning had sparked a ripple throughout Crestline's corridors. By the next morning, Amanda's inbox was flooded. Messages arrived not just from Verexa but from within Crestline itself, colleagues quietly congratulating her, others seeking advice, some expressing regret for the silence that had surrounded her. Her quiet war was no longer silent. Yet Nathan's desperation grew. He called a series of internal meetings with buzzwords like optics and team equity. He urged unity, trying to steer the narrative back under his control. But whispers had become conversations. And conversations had become questions. On Friday, Amanda received a phone call from Nathan. His voice was softer than before, stripped of its usual confidence. Amanda, I hope you're doing well. We'd like to invite you to a strategy session this afternoon. Just a quick roundtable. Your insights would be valuable. Amanda's response was calm but firm. I won't be attending. There was a long pause. Nathan tried again. It's important we show a united front for Verexa. They're vocal about preferring to work with you. Amanda held steady. It's too late for that. Nathan. She hung up, feeling the final severance from a company that had never truly valued her. But the consequences were immediate and profound. Within days, Crestline's relationship with Verexa unraveled. A terse internal memo circulated. A project cancellation due to personnel misalignment and loss of trust. The $8.3 million deal was dead. The news spread like wildfire. sending shockwaves through the industry. The board moved swiftly. Nathan was placed on administrative reassignment pending review. Mid-level managers were fired to take the fall. But the damage was done. Amanda watched from a distance as the company she'd saved crumbled under the weight of its own silence and denial. But even as Crestline faltered, Amanda's career took a new trajectory. Verexa extended an official offer, a strategic project consultant role with full autonomy. Double her previous salary, and the respect she deserved. She accepted, not out of necessity, but because finally, her work and worth were recognized. Amanda's unexpected turn from silent sacrifice to empowered leadership was a testament to the power of truth, persistence, and knowing when to walk away. After the storm had passed, Amanda found herself standing at a crossroads she never expected to reach. The victory she had quietly earned was no longer just about a job or a paycheck. It was about reclaiming her identity, her worth, and reshaping how she saw herself, and how the world might finally see her. 2. For years, Amanda had believed that loyalty meant silence. That enduring hardship without complaint was the path to respect. She thought that showing up, even when unseen and unacknowledged, was a kind of sacrifice that others would eventually honor. But the brutal reality had shattered that illusion. Crestline Tech's deliberate erasure of her work revealed a painful truth. Loyalty unreciprocated was not virtue, it was invisibility. This realization forced Amanda to rethink everything she'd held dear about her career and herself. The late nights, the endless sacrifices. Were they worth it if no one saw? No one cared, and no one protected her? Her time at Verexa was a stark contrast. There, she was more than a project manager. She was a respected strategic consultant with a voice that mattered. Her autonomy was not just a perk but a testament to the trust she had earned through her quiet strength and unyielding integrity. Amanda's perspective shifted from silent endurance to empowered advocacy. She began to see the importance of making one's contributions visible, not for vanity, but as a form of self-respect and protection. Documenting her work, archiving every detail, had been more than a defensive move. It was a declaration. I am here. I matter. This shift wasn't easy. It required Amanda to confront the ingrained belief that asking for recognition was selfish or confrontational. Instead, she learned that demanding fairness and respect was necessary, not just for herself, but for everyone who followed in her footsteps. With this new outlook, Amanda became a mentor to others navigating toxic workplaces. She shared her story openly, not to blame but to illuminate the dangers of invisible labor and the importance of self-advocacy. Her voice resonated with those who felt unseen and unheard, offering hope and a roadmap out of silence. Amanda also realized the power of truth, not as a weapon, but as a tool for change. The evidence she had meticulously collected didn't just expose Crestline's failures. It sparked policy changes that ensured future contributions would be properly acknowledged, preventing others from suffering the same fate. Most importantly, Amanda learned to redefine success on her own terms. It wasn't about the applause or the titles, it was about integrity, respect, and the freedom to work with purpose and pride. She still carried scars from the betrayal and erasure, but those wounds had become sources of strength. Amanda no longer needed external validation to know her worth. She had found it within herself. One afternoon, sitting in her new office overlooking downtown Austin, Amanda reflected on her journey. The city buzzed below, a reminder that life moved forward, relentless, unpredictable, but full of possibility. Her phone pinged with a message from a former Crestline colleague. Your story gave me the courage to leave too. Thank you. Amanda smiled softly, realizing her impact extended far beyond herself. Her silence had once been a shield, now, her voice was a beacon. The shift in perspective wasn't just a personal transformation, it was a movement toward a more just, transparent, and humane workplace for all. Following the upheaval at Crestline Tech and her decisive break from the company, Amanda Collins stepped into a world of new possibilities. What began as a painful ending blossomed into an unexpected opportunity that would redefine her career and her sense of self. The offer from Verexa Systems was more than just a job. It was a powerful statement of trust and respect. an acknowledgement of the value Amanda had fought so hard to prove. As a strategic project consultant, she was given full autonomy over timelines, team composition, and decision-making, an uncommon privilege in the corporate world. Amanda embraced the role with cautious optimism. The freedom to lead on her own terms was exhilarating. But it also came with pressure. She knew that this opportunity was as much a test as it was a reward. Verexa was entrusting her with their most critical initiatives. And Amanda was determined to exceed expectations. From day one, Amanda approached her work with renewed energy and vision. She assembled a team of diverse, talented professionals who shared her values of transparency, collaboration, and accountability. Unlike her previous environment, where politics often overshadowed merit, here she cultivated a culture where contributions were recognized and celebrated. Her first major project as a consultant involved revamping Verex's flagship software platform, a complex system plagued by legacy issues and plagued by miscommunication across departments. Amanda's approach was methodical and inclusive. She held regular strategy sessions, encouraged open dialogue, and implemented rigorous documentation practices to ensure every team member's efforts were visible and valued. The results were transformative. Within months, the project regained momentum, meeting milestones ahead of schedule. Client satisfaction soared, but more importantly, Amanda's leadership style inspired her team to embrace ownership and pride in their work. Word of her success spread quickly within the industry. Amanda was invited to speak at conferences and participate in panels focused on project management, workplace culture, and leadership. She used these platforms not to boast but to share lessons from her journey, the importance of visibility, self-advocacy, and ethical leadership. The shift from being overlooked to becoming a sought-after expert was humbling but invigorating. Amanda balanced the spotlight with humility, always mindful of those still struggling in silence. Verex's leadership recognized Amanda's impact by offering her a long-term partnership, complete with competitive compensation and the autonomy she valued most. For Amanda, this was more than a career advancement. It was validation that integrity and perseverance could break down even the most entrenched barriers. Outside of work, Amanda found new balance. She rekindled relationships she had neglected during the Crestline crisis, took time for self-care, and pursued passions long deferred. The scars of past betrayal remained, but they no longer defined her. Amanda also became a mentor, guiding other professionals navigating toxic work environments. She shared tools for documenting contributions, negotiating recognition, and knowing when to walk away. Her journey had taught her that success wasn't just about achieving goals. It was about creating spaces where people could thrive authentically. Amanda's new chapter was a testament to resilience and transformation. From silent sacrifice to empowered leadership, she had carved a path not only for herself but for countless others seeking justice and respect in the workplace. Amanda Collins had entered her new role at Verexa Systems with a sense of cautious hope. But what followed was a profound journey of growth, not just as a professional, but as a person. The transformation she experienced during this chapter of her life was as much about healing old wounds as it was about building a future on her own terms. For years, Amanda had defined herself by the relentless drive to prove her worth. Often at the expense of her own well-being. She had been conditioned to believe that success required silent sacrifice, long hours, missed holidays, and invisible labor. But in the early days at Verexa, she discovered a different truth. Leadership was not about martyrdom, it was about balance, communication, and authenticity. Amanda began by setting boundaries she never dared to enforce before. She scheduled regular breaks, insisted on clear work-life separation, and learned to say no when necessary. These small acts of self-care were revolutionary for her. Initially, she worried they might be perceived as weakness or lack of commitment. But the response was the opposite. Her team respected her more for modeling healthy habits and sustainable work ethics. She also deepened her emotional intelligence. Amanda took time to understand not only her own feelings but also those of her colleagues. She practiced empathy, recognizing that everyone carried hidden struggles. This compassion became a cornerstone of her leadership style, fostering trust and openness within her team. One pivotal moment came when a junior developer, struggling with imposter syndrome, confided in Amanda about feeling invisible despite hard work. Amanda saw her own past reflected in this young employee's fears. Rather than dismiss the concerns, Amanda shared her own story, her battles with burnout, erasure, and self-doubt. This vulnerability created a profound connection and empowered the developer to speak up and take ownership of her contributions. Amanda also embraced mentorship with renewed passion. She began volunteering with organizations supporting women and minorities in tech, using her voice to advocate for inclusion and equity. Through workshops and speaking engagements, she emphasized the importance of documenting work, negotiating fairly, and fostering psychological safety in the workplace. This outward focus fueled Amanda's inner growth. She no longer carried the burden of proving herself to others. Instead, she focused on nurturing her own confidence and self-worth. Success became less about external validation and more about aligning actions with core values. Professionally, Amanda's strategic acumen sharpened. She developed innovative project management frameworks that emphasized transparency, accountability, and collaboration. Her teams consistently delivered results while maintaining morale and avoiding burnout, a stark contrast to the toxic environment she once endured. Amanda also learned to navigate corporate politics with grace and integrity. Rather than avoiding conflict, she addressed issues openly, using data and clear communication to advocate for her team. Her reputation as a fair, principled leader grew, attracting top talent and opening doors to broader influence. Despite the progress, Amanda remained mindful of her scars. She sought therapy to process the trauma of her experience at Crestline and cultivate resilience. These sessions helped her transform pain into strength, turning wounds into wisdom. One evening, reflecting on her journey, Amanda realized how far she had come. The woman who once cried alone in a bathroom stall, feeling invisible and discarded, had become a confident leader who inspired others to find their voices. Amanda's growth was not linear. There were setbacks, moments of doubt, and lingering fears, but each challenge was met with self-compassion and determination. She understood that growth was a lifelong process, one that required patience and courage. Her story became a beacon for others navigating similar struggles. Amanda's transformation illustrated that even in the face of erasure and betrayal, it was possible to reclaim one's narrative, rise stronger, and lead with authenticity. As she looked ahead, Amanda knew her journey was far from over. But armed with newfound wisdom, resilience, and purpose, she was ready to face whatever came next, not as a silent sufferer, but as a fierce advocate for herself and those who followed. Amanda Collins' story did not end with quiet resignation or silent suffering. Instead, it blossomed into a powerful testament to resilience, courage, and the unyielding human spirit. What began as a personal battle against invisibility became a universal message for anyone who has ever felt erased, overlooked, or undervalued. As Amanda settled into her new role at Verexa Systems, she found herself reflecting deeply on the journey that had brought her here. The countless nights spent hunched over code, the missed birthdays and family dinners, the emotional weight of being unacknowledged, all of it had shaped her. But none of it defined her. Her new position wasn't just a job, it was a platform. Amanda embraced it with a fierce commitment to uplift others and transform workplace culture. She championed transparency, fairness, and recognition, ensuring no one else would have to fight in silence as she once had. Amanda's advocacy extended beyond her immediate team. She began collaborating with industry leaders to develop standards that demanded clear attribution of work, rigorous documentation of contributions, and accountability from leadership. Her voice, once quiet and overshadowed, now echoed in conferences, podcasts, and boardrooms. One of her proudest moments came during a major tech symposium, where Amanda spoke about the cost of silence, the emotional and professional toll of invisible labor in high-pressure environments. Her story resonated deeply with thousands of attendees, sparking conversations that rippled across companies worldwide. Amanda's journey also became a source of inspiration for those still trapped in toxic workplaces. Messages flooded her inbox from individuals who had found the courage to speak up, demand fair treatment, or walk away from environments that drained them. Each message reinforced Amanda's belief that change was possible, one voice at a time. Her story was not about revenge or bitterness. It was about truth, dignity, and the power of persistence. Amanda showed that sometimes the greatest victories come not with loud outbursts but through steady, unwavering commitment to one's values and self-respect. Even as she celebrated her successes, Amanda remained grounded. She never forgot the woman who had cried alone in a bathroom stall, feeling invisible and erased. That memory fueled her compassion and empathy, reminding her to listen deeply and lead with kindness. Amanda's leadership style evolved into one that balanced strength with vulnerability, decisiveness with grace. She fostered environments where employees felt seen, heard, and valued. Her teams thrived not only because of their skills but because of the culture she nurtured. The ripple effect of Amanda's journey extended beyond the tech industry. Her story became a blueprint for anyone battling invisibility, whether in corporate offices, creative fields, or caregiving roles. It was a call to action to document, advocate, and never settle for silence. Amanda knew the fight for fairness and recognition was ongoing. There would always be systems resistant to change, moments of doubt, and battles ahead, but she was no longer alone or afraid. She had found her voice, and with it, the power to shape not just her own destiny but the futures of countless others. As she sat by the window in her new office, watching the city pulse with life, Amanda smiled. The road had been long and hard, but every step had led her here, to a place of strength, purpose, and hope. She raised her cup of tea in a quiet toast to herself, to those who fought beside her, and to those who would follow. Sometimes, she thought, winning isn't about staying in the arena the longest, it's about knowing when to stand up, speak out, and walk toward the light. Amanda Collins had done just that, and in doing so, she had rewritten the story of what it means to be seen, valued, and truly heard. Amanda's journey teaches us a profound truth. Silent sacrifice without recognition can lead to invisibility. But quiet persistence combined with strategic advocacy creates undeniable impact. Loyalty and hard work alone are not enough. We must also ensure our contributions are seen and valued. True respect comes from transparency and self-advocacy, not blind endurance. In today's fast-paced, high-pressure workplaces, burnout often creeps in silently. Amanda's experience reveals that the slow erosion of one's voice and presence can be just as damaging as overt rejection. Recognizing when your efforts are being overlooked, and taking deliberate steps to document, communicate, and protect your value, is crucial for career longevity and personal well-being. Thank you for choosing to listen to this story among thousands of stories out there. Like and subscribe to continue listening to the latest stories.